real name is Malachi because I found my superpower being a mom. I was born on Human Rights Day, December 10th of 1973. So I just want people to know I'm not a spring chicken. I've lived in different places around the world. I've traveled not around the world, but around the country. I've driven cross country twice. I lived in Hawaii. So I've seen a lot of things. I've done a lot of things. I became a mom and student to a young black male superhero on December 23rd of 2015. That was 13 days after my 42nd birthday. He is literally a miracle. The name that God gave him is wisdom. And God told me that it wasn't gonna be for the things he would learn, but for the things he would teach. So that put me on a journey so that I could be the one that helped him live up to his name because I knew it would be mine. So I took a circle of security class, which helped me to understand that when a child expresses a need, we simply meet it. And last year, in January of 2022, I was able to take a parent coaching certification class through the Jai Institute for Parenting, and they teach that every behavior and also every emotion that is expressed is an expression of a need, whether it's met or unmet. So my big four have become the basics of how to regulate me and wisdom. And that's because of my understanding of brain development, nervous system regulation, trauma, and nutrition. And that's why I consider myself the emancipated mom. Emancipation is a really special word because legally it means that a child is separated from their parent. And so for me, this means that I'm emancipated from the subconscious conditioning and subsequent triggers of my nervous system. So I don't practice adultism, at least I don't try. And that's a discrimination against our young. A belief that a belief in that I'm superior or adults are superior to them. So wisdom is an autonomous being. He is able to take on a different identities, and it is my responsibility to know why he's behaving like that, and then help him to regulate if there's a reason behind a behavior that isn't sitting very well. So when I thought about this and I attended the last meeting and I started looking at numbers, this is the PIC count, which means point in time count, that the partnership did in 2022. And it said that approximately 1,500 people were unhoused. But at this last meeting, we had a representative from Wake County Public Schools who, I apologize, I don't remember his name, but he said that it was somewhere close to 6,000 students. So then on Families Together, their website says that it's actually more about 6,500 children who will go homeless in Wake County this year because they added children that were not registered in the school system, whether it was because they were infants or they were young children. This is a 104% increase since 2010. And 31% of the increase is just in the last 3 years. 83% of the children who experience homelessness are exposed to at least one serious violent incident. And so I don't know if you guys are familiar with ACEs. Most people are familiar with adverse childhood experiences. But this infographic is by the North Carolina Partnership for Children. I was introduced to this at the Leveraging North Carolina's Assets to Prevent Child Trauma Summit at the end of April. And they discuss 4 realms of ACEs. So that's not just adverse childhood experiences, that's adverse climate experiences, adverse community experiences, and atrocious cultural experiences. So that means that 100% of homeless children are experiencing at least one of 10 ACEs. It means that then I looked up this infographic in what I was working on, and it says 98% of the prison population has at least one ACE. So that means that 83% of the children living in poverty or who are homeless have at least 2 ACEs. So let's speculate. The amount of children in the pipeline to prison because of homelessness right now is 5,395 if we count it at 83%. If we count it at 93%, looking at the numbers from those in the prison population, that's 6,370 children. And remember, that's from birth all the way up to, 18 until they graduate. So if $50,000 per year, the estimate is $52,000, a little bit more than $52,000 a year is spent per prisoner, per inmate. In time, the county will spend $269,750,000 on the 83%. For the 98%, they will invest $318,500,000. Oh, there you go. So, my question question is, and let's think about this seriously, would you rather spend between 270 million, between 270 and 320 million on the prison system, or have that money added to the economy? So, I'd like to now discuss the 3 compassionate steps to eliminating homelessness. And the reason why this is, the name includes the word compassionate is because compassionate is a very important word. Compassionate doesn't just mean that you feel some sort of way about somebody's situation, like you feel bad or anything like that. It actually means that when you see somebody in a state of suffering, that you have a strong desire to alleviate that suffering, and that's in the dictionary. Mr. Dwayne, can you help me out? Thanks. So the first step is to meet the wants and needs of those who are unhoused. It's this simple way of saying what my mercy and versus your mercy. What's merciful for you is not merciful for me. And so we need to extend mercy based on the needs of the person. Is that me? Okay. 2, the assurance of protection. This is keep it Samaritan style. In the parable of the exceptional Samaritan from the Bible, this is not to be religious. It's just as an example. There was a person who came in, the Samaritan came in, picked this man up off the ground, cleansed his wounds, put him in a room, took care of him for a night, and then continued and left money. That is what our people need. And the last thing is to recondition the nervous system of those who are unhoused so that they can live in a state of rice and digest. 6, I would imagine that a high number of our population, period, don't even know what this means. So it's that much more important for us to endeavor to understand this. And the end result will be to move people internally and externally from poverty to prosperity. The 3 reasons why they're not done, the 3 barriers to this happening, is because poverty is expensive. Somebody is paying and someone is profiting. So the realistic cost of what it takes to house a person who's unhoused, it says in this particular one, it says that it's about $40,000 a year for a person to be unhoused. That's how much the state pays, whoever. They pay. But when you provide a person with housing, it costs a little bit more than $15,000. So the real problem, as I was saying, somebody is profiting and someone is paying. To house one person using an investment of $20,000 for a year, what I did is I looked at 10 of our nonprofits in this area. With just using the executive director salaries, we can house 43 people at $20,000 a year. But I wanna just jump to the bottom where we can house 2,226 people with all the revenue from those 10 nonprofits. 2, another barrier, the lack of knowledge about brain development, nervous system regulation, and trauma impacting those without stable housing. And this is not just from those who are experiencing it, but from those who are providing services. And 3, those without housing, those without housing aren't involved in the conversations, often the ones with the time and the passion to work on the housing crisis. 3 steps to get started. Let's go. 1, create a leadership circle with individuals without stable housing. 2, provide temporary housing for them 6 to 8 weeks. 3, develop interest from the community. And these are people who can see the brilliance of those who are unhoused despite their bank accounts and hold a vision of life beyond homelessness for them. Because the reality is that when you walk into a service today, they want to move you from one level of poverty to another if they don't just keep you where you're at. So this is where I got this concept for the Coalition for Compassionate Housing. I feel the Homelessness Task Force is an appropriate name for what it is called to do, because y'all are focusing, we are focusing on the partnership. This is actually addressing homelessness, because compassion that's used in there, it means we see a need, we're gonna alleviate it. This is an equitable partnership between community members who are without housing in the task force to create and implement immediate community-driven developments to eliminate homelessness. And this coalition would fall underneath the task force. It allows people to find, share, and develop their innate brilliance in service to the community. And it supports the unhoused to have a voice over how and where they live. And when I say community-driven, this is actually a concept, community-driven development. And the information at the bottom, it says based on concepts of participation, transparency, barrier removal, accountability, local power, and enhanced capacity. Continued. What this coalition would do is research and create a sustainable, compassionate housing plan in 45 days or less. Then they would return to report to the task force, the city of Raleigh and/or Wake County. The idea that they would be pursuing is homesteads for the homeless. This is where it's off-grid living, but within the city limits. There would be community gardens, personal gardens, and all the people who participate in these our employees with paid training and insurance, because when you're unhoused, these are the things you don't have access to. The work that needs to be done. One, determine the need. How many and what kind? One of the things about the achieving functional zero. Yes.
We have about 5 minutes left.
Oh, perfect.
To wrap up.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
I didn't even realize I was, oh, yeah, good, thanks. What happens in Community Solutions is an organization that came up with the concept of functional zero. And one of the things that they do is they make addressing homelessness very personal. So they know all the people, they know where they're at. Every month they do an update. And so we would get together, this coalition, and we would visit streets, hotels, tent communities, et cetera, to determine who needs a place to stay and what type of structure they want. We would create partnerships with property owners and developers. These are just 4 of the properties that I've looked up that are available, that have either no land, nothing on it, or it's minimally developed, that would be perfect to put a homestead on. These are the potential structures that could be used. There are different types of tiny homes. In fact, this one particular one on Incredible Tiny Homes website, they offer an 8x16 tiny home with solar and off-grid options, which means it has a water catchment system, like a rain catchment system on it, and it's under $40,000. Currently, 1,113 people could be housed permanently with the revenue from the 10 nonprofits if we purchase that. The gardens, personal community gardens, I've asked Brittany Robinson Wittenhill if I could include her business in this. She's very interested in working on developing personal gardens for people so that they can grow what they need in their own backyards, and she is very interested in being a part of this project. I also put the Brentwood Garden Club in the city of Raleigh because they work together every year. They've been doing this for 20 years. Twice a year they get together to develop and to plant the plants and the flowers and stuff that are at the entrance of the park on Brentwood, which I thought was beautiful. So why not get involved with something bigger than them? Then we would find our mentors and train them, and we also would discuss how this project would be funded. The compensation, yes, we would get paid. And I think that it's always together if we do this better. It's always better if we do this together, right? So I've been working on launching my business. It just got accepted by the Secretary of State. I was a Spark grant recipient, and that means that it was paid for. I didn't have to do the work. The lawyer did the paperwork and provided the money. I'm very grateful for Venus Lyles from Lyles Law who did that. And so what I'm looking for is to launch a fundraiser where I would raise the money that would continue to put the legal aspects in my business in place, and then the city and county would each match the amount that has already been generated. The money that they would come up with would be to house all 6 members, house all the members for 6 to 8 weeks, individually versus collectively, just because we don't know what we're dealing with as far as nervous system regulation and things of that nature. We wanna minimize trauma. That could be like a hotel room with a kitchen or Airbnb. Before we begin, there should be a stipend of about $500 each, so people can get food, clothing, hygiene, laundry, etc. Up to 30 days after the work is completed, preferably sooner, I as a leader would get $5K. That would be to guide the entire project, recruit and train mentors, and it should be my stipend for participation in this task force, because I was really surprised when I came and sat down at this table and realized that everybody was getting paid to be here, and I wasn't even offered anything.
And that really hurt because my time is valuable too. And I'm bringing experience that nobody else has and information that nobody else has, and I should be paid at least $200 a meeting because you're getting paid for my expertise in parent coaching as well as my plant-based coaching certification. There should be 2 co-leaders who guide the teams, and there's 2 teams per co-leader, and there's 4 groups of 2. They should be compensated $2,000 each because this is an incredible project that nobody else is doing. The guesstimated total for this is $50,000. Then there's a 6-week timeline. We give people a week to settle in. We get out there and talk to the community. Yeah, I saw the finger. I got it. Research and report, return and report. Then from the city council, this is what we would ask to compensate the leadership circle with housing and funds from the discretionary fund. Reestablish the mayor's commission on compassion so we can do a good job at tracking things that are happening where people need help. Train to become members and change the UDO description for tiny homes. From the county, we would ask to compensate the leadership circle with housing and funds. Train to become members and set the standard for their nation because people are watching. I'm not gonna go there. Here's my information. Thank you.
Part of our issue with our job.
That's why I tell you are being paid because your job's really fair, you're being paid by your job, and this is during working hours. So y'all are.
But I'm
But, thank you for the presentation, Mama County, make sure we distribute that to all the members, so you can get an opportunity to go back and look at all the slides and